Have you ever wondered why the guards at the Tower of London never patrol alone during the night shift? It's not for political reasons. It's for a much older, much more terrifying reason. My name is William Blackwood. I served as a yeoman warder at the Tower of London for 15 years. And what I experienced, those nights still keep me awake. Have you ever wondered why some places have such a heavy atmosphere? You think it's just history, just the past. You're wrong. Some places never let go of the past. The Tower of London is said to be one of the most haunted places in the world. Tour guides talk about the ghost of Anne Boleyn, but the truly terrifying things are other things. Things no one knows about. On my first night on the job, Senior Warder Thomas Hartwell pulled me aside. He was 60 years old, had worked here for 40 years. His face was lined, his eyes tired. "William," he said quietly, "if you want to survive this job, you need to learn some rules." "What rules, Mr. Hartwell?" "Never go near the bloody tower alone between 2 and 4 a.m. If you hear noises in the basement of the White Tower, you didn't hear them, and most importantly," he lowered his voice even further, "if you see red eyes near the Raven Tower, run. Run without looking back." This seemed strange. "Red eyes, sir. They're referred to as tower ravens in the old records. But these aren't ordinary birds, William. They're guardians. And what they guard is their lives." That night I stood my first watch. The Tower of London is a completely different place at night. The tourist atmosphere of the day gives way to a cold, spine-chilling silence. The echo of footsteps disappears between the stone walls. It's as if the castle breathes. At 2:30 a.m., of course, I passed near the Raven Tower. I heard a strange sound. At first I thought it was the wind. Then I listened more closely. It was a flapping sound, the sound of wings, but the wings of a very large bird. I looked up. There was a huge shadow at the top of the tower. At first I thought it was a normal raven, but then I saw its eyes, red, glowing, as if burning from within. At that moment, Thomas's words came to mind. "Run. Run without looking back. And I ran. I had never run so fast that night. The flapping sounds were coming from behind me. It was as if it was following me. The next day, I found Thomas. "Mr. Hartwell, I saw something at Raven Tower last night." His face darkened. "What did you see?" "A giant raven. It had red eyes. It followed me." Thomas sighed deeply. "So they noticed you. That's not good, William." "What do you mean, noticed me?" "The tower ravens are ancient guardians. They've been here for centuries, and they choose special people." "How special?" "Those who are going to die." Those words hit me like a bucket of ice water. "What do you mean, those who are going to die?" "William, the death rate among guards working at the Tower of London is 3 times higher than elsewhere. Car accidents, sudden illnesses, heart attacks, always mysterious, always unexplained. And what do these ravens have to do with it? They are harbingers of death. Whoever they choose, that person's days are numbered. If your hair is standing on end while listening to this story, know that the truly terrifying part is just beginning." I was on duty again that night. This time I stayed away from Raven Tower, but there was no escape. At exactly midnight, I saw those red eyes in the window of the White Tower. They were watching me. The same thing happened every night for a week. Wherever I went, those red eyes were there. It was as if they had marked me. I consulted Thomas again. "How can I escape?" "I don't know, William. No one has escaped yet." "Then who was chosen in the past?" Thomas pulled out the old records. In 1987, James Crawford. 2 weeks after being marked, he fell down the stairs and broke his neck. In 1995, Michael Roberts. The Ravens chose him, and 3 weeks later he had a sudden heart attack. In 2003, David Wilson. A month later, he was poisoned by a gas leak. The list was long and terrifying. So why did they choose me? What do I have in common with the others? Thomas looked at the files. You're all young, you're all single, you all have no family, and... He paused. And what? You all have the Celtic gene in your blood. Irish, Scottish, Welsh descent. That was a strange detail. What does the Celtic gene have to do with it? The Tower of London was built on Celtic sacred ground. Ancient. Druid temples were here, and those ravens, they are the guardians of Celtic spirits. Now the picture was becoming clear. This was no coincidence. It was an ancient ritual. 2 weeks later, I had my first accident. I slipped on the stairs. I almost fell, but I caught myself at the last moment. That same night, the raven came again. This time, closer, more threatening. What would you do? Working in a cursed place when the guardians of death mark you. In the 3rd week, I was electrocuted. In the 4th week, my car brakes failed. Each time, I narrowly escaped death. But I knew my luck wouldn't last forever. Thomas gave me only one piece of advice. Leave the tower. Leave immediately. Don't come back here. But it wasn't easy. This was my life, my career. And most importantly, even if I ran away, would they let me go? I got my answer in the 5th week. Sitting at home, I saw those red eyes at the window. So they had followed me home. That night, I made my decision. I would resign from the Tower of London. But first, I needed to learn the truth. What exactly were these ravens? Why were they targeting the Celtic bloodlines? I went to the tower's old archives. The documents I found there were terrifying. In 1066, before William the Conqueror built the tower. This was a sacred site for Celtic Druids. Sacrificial rituals were performed here, and the ravens, they were part of these rituals. The Druids transferred the souls of those they killed into the ravens. These ravens remained as guardians after death, protecting the sacred ground. Centuries passed, but the rituals continued. Thousands of people imprisoned, tortured, and killed in the tower. Their souls all lived on in these ravens. And now they had chosen me, because I had Celtic blood, because I was working on their land, and because the time for sacrifice had come. Elements introduced in this chapter: William Blackwood, Guard; Thomas Hartwell, Mentor; Tower Ravens, Red-Eyed Ravens; Celtic genetic link; History of Druid rituals; Signs of death. By the 6th week, I fully understood. These ravens weren't just harbingers of death. They were also collectors. They gathered souls, imprisoning them in the sacred ground. I found Thomas one last time. Mr. Hartwell, I know the truth now. It's about these druids. The old guard shook his head. So you've been investigating? Yes, William, it's very old. The curse of the Celtic druids. So how can I escape it? There's only one way, but it's very dangerous. What is it? Thomas looked around, making sure no one was there before speaking. There's a source feeding the ravens. Deep within the tower, the ruins of an ancient Druid temple. Destroy that place and their power will be broken. Where is this place? Beneath the White Tower there's a secret passage, but no one who has entered it has ever returned. William, this was my last chance. Either I would find this secret place and break the Raven's power, or I would become their next victim. That night, I made my preparations. A flashlight, rope, a knife, and most importantly, courage. At midnight, I entered the White Tower. I went down to the basement. I was looking for the place Thomas had described. I examined the walls meticulously. Finally, I found it. There was a hidden button behind one of the stones. When I pressed it, a small door opened in the wall. Inside, it was pitch black. There was a narrow passageway. Stone walls, damp, humid. The echo of my footsteps sounded terrifying. I don't know how far I walked, but eventually I came out into a large cave. And what I saw there, God, it couldn't be real. In the middle of the cave was a huge stone altar. Ancient Celtic symbols were carved into it. Hundreds of skeletons lay around the altar. Some were very old, some relatively new. But the most terrifying part was something else. Hundreds of ravens hung from the cave ceiling. They all opened their eyes at the same time. Red, glowing eyes. And they were all looking at me. At that moment, I realized it was a trap. They wanted me to come here, because sacred ground was needed for the ritual, and I had come here on my own 2 feet. The ravens began to spread their wings. They were screaming horribly. The sound was so loud that my ears were ringing. They began to approach the altar. I realized it was too late to escape. There was no way out of this cave. But then I remembered something Thomas had said. Those with Celtic blood are special. They can reverse the ritual. My Celtic blood. It wasn't a curse. It was actually a power. As the ravens attacked me, I cut my hand and let my blood flow onto the altar. I release all the spirits you have bound, I shouted. I break this curse with my Celtic blood. At that moment, the cave began to shake. The ravens screeched horribly, but this time their screams were cries of pain. Suddenly, light began to pour from the cave walls, and from within that light, transparent figures appeared. Hundreds of human spirits. They had all been trapped here for centuries. Thank you, they whispered. We are finally free. The spirits began to rise upward, and with them the ravens dissolved. One by one, they vanished. If you ever find yourself in such a cursed situation, remember, sometimes weakness is what makes you strong. The cave was about to collapse. I ran out through the passageway. The noise behind me was terrifying. It was as if the entire tower was shaking. When I reached the White Tower, it was morning, and for the first time in months, I felt at peace. There were no red eyes. There were no shadows following me. I found Thomas. I did it. I destroyed the ravens. The old guard looked at me in astonishment. How? Everyone who went in there died. Thanks to my Celtic blood, I freed their spirits. So the legends were true. Those with Celtic blood really are special. In the days that followed, I noticed that the atmosphere in the tower had changed. That heavy, gloomy atmosphere was gone. The other guards seemed relieved, too. William, said Thomas, you did something very important. You broke a curse that had lasted for centuries. But the story doesn't end there, because the ravens at the Tower of London were just the beginning. 2 weeks later, while standing guard at London Tower Bridge, I noticed something strange. Giant shadows were flying over the Thames, new ravens, and this time they were much bigger, much more dangerous. Thomas, I said, I don't think we solved the problem. We opened the door to a bigger one. What do you mean? The ravens at the tower were just part of a family. The main colony is somewhere else. Thomas's face darkened. So the real danger is just beginning. That night I saw an old woman in my dream. She was dressed in Druid robes, her eyes pure white. "Young warrior," she said, "you have only opened the first door. The real battle begins now." "What battle?" I asked. "All the sacred lands in London are awakening, and you are their new guardian." This dream was a warning. My Celtic blood had not only saved me, it had also condemned me to a new destiny. The next morning, I began my research. How many sacred sites were there in London? Westminster Abbey, St. Paul's Cathedral, London Bridge, Hyde Park. Beneath them all lay ancient Celtic temples, and each had different guardians. Some were ravens, some were wolves, some were snakes. They had all lived there for centuries, protected by magical powers. Have you ever wondered why there are so many paranormal events in London? Because this city is built on a huge Celtic burial ground. Walking near Westminster Abbey, I heard the howling of giant wolves, the rustling of giant snakes at St. Paul's Cathedral. Different guardians were awakening everywhere. And they were all looking for me. Because I was the one who broke their curse. Now I was their target. "William," Thomas said anxiously, "this is huge. You don't realize it, but you've upset the balance of all London. What should I do?" "I don't know. This has never happened before. You are the first Celtic blood guardian to be this powerful." That night, sitting at home, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, I saw someone I didn't expect, an old woman dressed in Druid robes, the same one I saw in my dream. "Are you real?" I asked in astonishment. "I am very real, William Blackwood. I am Morgana, the last Druid priestess, and you are the one we have been waiting for." Elements introduced in this section: secret Druid temple, soul release ritual, power of Celtic blood, other sacred sites in London, new guardians, wolf snake, Morgana, Druid priestess. When Morgana entered my home, the atmosphere suddenly changed. It was as if the air had become charged with electricity. As the old Druid woman walked around my living room, my belongings began to vibrate. "William Blackwood," she said, in a deep voice, "what you're experiencing is no coincidence. We've been waiting for you for centuries." "You've been waiting for me?" "Why?" "Because you are the last guardian. The legacy of ancient powers runs through your Celtic blood, and all the sacred lands in London are now your responsibility." This was a responsibility I never wanted. I was just a regular guardian. I can't handle such big tasks. Morgana smiled. "No Celtic warrior is born ready, William, but you proved your strength by breaking the curse at the tower." "So what's happening at the other sacred sites?" "The Fenrir wolves at Westminster Abbey are awakening. They're remnants of the Viking invasion. The basilisk snakes at St. Paul's are on the move. They're from the Roman era. And the Fey spirits in Hyde Park. They're the oldest, from pre-Celtic times." Each name made my heart beat faster. "Why are they all awakening now?" "Because you disrupted the balance, William. When you destroyed the ravens at the tower, the other guardians sensed the power vacuum. Now there will be a territorial war in London, and those caught in the middle. Humans," I finished. "Exactly. Innocent humans. Protecting them is now your duty." Morgana pulled an old compass from her pocket. But this was no ordinary compass. Its needle was constantly moving instead of pointing north. "This is a paranormal activity detector. It will guide you to whichever sacred site is active in London. And this..." She pulled out something else. An old Celtic dagger. "This is a replica of Guy Bolga, the legendary Celtic weapon, the only effective weapon against spiritual creatures." Everyone listening to this story must be wondering, what would you do if faced with such a task? Would you run away or fight? That night, the compass led me to Westminster Abbey. As I wandered around the historic church at midnight, I heard terrifying howls. Fenrir wolves. Giant shadows began to emerge from the graveyard behind the abbey. These wolves were not normal size. They were the size of horses. Their eyes glowed green. The first wolf growled when it saw me. The others took up positions to surround me. There were 5 in total. I drew the Celtic dagger. The moment the weapon touched my hand, I felt its ancient power. It was as if the spirits of my ancestors had merged with me. When the leader wolf attacked me, the dagger moved automatically. It plunged into the animal's chest. The wolf let out a terrible scream and began to disintegrate. Its spirit was dissolving. The other 4 approached more cautiously, but the result was the same. The Celtic dagger was destroying their spiritual forms. When the last wolf was killed, the bells of Westminster Abbey began to ring. But no one was ringing them. Was this a spiritual salute? Morgana suddenly appeared beside me. Good work, William. But this is only the beginning. How many more are there? There are 7 great sacred sites in London. You've cleared the Tower of London. You've cleared Westminster. 5 more. The next night, the compass led me to St. Paul's Cathedral. This time, I would face basilisk, snakes. When I descended into the cathedral's basement, I heard terrible rustling sounds. And then I saw them. Giant snakes. Some were 10 meters long. Their eyes glowed yellow. Basilisks were highly venomous. Just looking at them could kill you. But the Celtic dagger protected me. I almost got caught fighting the first snake. Their speed was incredible, but I managed in the end. When the dagger pierced its head, its entire body shattered into light. After a 6-hour battle, St. Paul's was also cleared. Morgana reappeared. William, you learn very quickly, but be careful. Every sacred site is more dangerous. Where's the next one? Hyde Park. But it's different. Fae spirits. They're much smarter, much more cunning. Hyde Park looked completely different at midnight. The trees seemed to be moving. Flowers were glowing, and there were tinkling sounds in the air. When the Fae became visible, I was stunned by their beauty. They were gorgeous, enchanting creatures, but Morgana had warned me. They deceive with their appearance. Their real goal is to steal your soul. The Fae Queen approached me. Celtic warrior, she said in a melodic voice. You don't have to fight us. Join us. We will give you eternal life. It was tempting, but my Celtic dagger began to vibrate. It was a trap. No, I said firmly. My duty is to protect humans. At that moment I saw the Fae's true faces. Horrible, twisted faces. Long claws, sharp teeth. The battle began. But this time, it was different. The Fae were using magic. They made the trees attack me. The flowers release poisonous gas. The Celtic dagger glowed. With each Fae, I killed. The park returned a little, more to normal. Have you ever wondered why some parks feel mysterious at night? Perhaps ancient powers dwell there. When the Fae Queen was the last one left, she made me one final offer. William Blackwood, you are a very powerful warrior, but greater dangers lie ahead. Form an alliance with us. What kind of dangers? The Dark Council. They want to control all the sacred lands, and they wanted to use your power. This was new information. What is the Dark Council? The secret rulers of the modern world. They are trying to control the ancient powers, and you are disrupting their plan." These words fell on me like dark clouds. I wasn't just cleansing the sacred lands. I was part of a much bigger war. When I killed the Fey Queen, Hyde Park returned to normal. But now I knew the real enemy was coming from somewhere else. Morgana appeared one last time. "William, there are 3 more sacred sites, but be careful. The Dark Council has begun to notice you." "Who are they?" "A secret organization that controls the modern world. Billionaires, politicians, members of the royal family. They want to use the ancient powers for modern purposes. And I'm disrupting their plan?" "Exactly. You're unleashing the ancient powers. They want to control them." Elements introduced in this section: Morgana's guidance, the paranormal, compass, the Celtic dagger Guy Bolga, Fenrir wolves in Westminster, basilisk snakes in St. Paul's, fey spirits in Hyde Park, the existence of the Dark Council. The next night, the compass led me to London Bridge. But this time, something was different. I saw black cars parked near the bridge, men in suits inside them. The Dark Council. Morgana. Quote, S-words came to mind. They had noticed me now. The sacred area under London Bridge was very old. It dated back to Roman times. The spirits of the Thames lived here. Water elements. But as I approached the bridge, I saw those men in suits. 3 of them. They all looked young, but there was an old wisdom in their eyes. "Mr. Blackwood," said one of them, "we need to talk to you." "Who are you?" "Representatives of the Dark Council, and what you are doing is very dangerous." Alarm bells started ringing inside me. What could I have done? "You are cleansing the sacred grounds. But these powers must be kept under control. They must not be released." Why? They were harming people. Because these powers are part of the balance of the modern world. We use them in an orderly fashion. These words made me sick. How do you use them? Energy production, economic manipulation, political control. Paranormal powers are very valuable resources, Mr. Blackwood. So while I thought I was protecting people, I was actually destroying their resources. "I won't stop," I said, resolutely. "Then we'll come to an agreement by force." All 3 men began to change. Their faces were distorted. Their eyes glowed red. These weren't humans. They were shapeshifters. The Celtic dagger began to glow. But this time, I was facing stronger enemies. When the first shapeshifter attacked me, its speed was incredible. It was almost impossible to catch. But the Celtic dagger guided me. The Thames River suddenly began to swell. The water spirits were awakening, joining the battle. But on which side? The water spirits began to shake London Bridge. The cars on the bridge began to tremble. If anyone listening to this story had been on that bridge, they would probably have thought it was a tsunami. As I killed the second shapeshifter, I realized the water spirits were on my side. They wanted freedom too. When the third and most powerful shapeshifter made its final attack, the Thames River formed a giant wave. This wave swallowed the shapeshifter. The water spirits were finally free. London Bridge returned to normal. But now I knew that the Dark Council was a serious threat. They wouldn't stop. The next morning, I found Thomas. "Mr. Hartwell, we have a huge problem." "What happened, William?" "There's an organization called the Dark Council. They're trying to control paranormal powers." Thomas's face darkened. "I know them too. They've been around for ages." "You never mentioned them before, because they're very dangerous. Messing with them is suicide." But now they're messing with me. There's no escape, Thomas thought. William, I'll show you something, but it must remain very secret. Took me to a secret room in the Tower of London. There were old maps and documents on the walls. This room is the center of the secret resistance, said Thomas. We've been fighting the Dark Council for centuries. Secret resistance? Are you a member too? I just gather information, William, but you're an active fighter. The maps showed all the sacred sites in London, and next to each one was the Dark Council's level of control. Look, said Thomas, Tower of London 0%, Westminster 0%, St. Paul's 0%, Hyde Park 0%, London Bridge 0%. You've cleared those. But look at these. Buckingham Palace 95%, Parliament 90%, City of London 85%. So the most powerful sacred sites are still under their control. Exactly. And those are much more dangerous, because they actively use those powers. Have you ever wondered why powerful people gather in certain buildings? Maybe there are special powers beneath those buildings. What's the next target, William? I pulled out the compass and looked. It pointed to Buckingham Palace. The Royal Palace, I said. Thomas held his breath. William, it's very dangerous. The powers there have been controlled by the royal family for centuries. What kind of powers? Dragon energies, the most powerful type of paranormal power, and they used that power to control the entire empire. This was a huge challenge, but I had no choice. When I approached Buckingham Palace that night, security was tight. But the Celtic dagger concealed me. I could become invisible. I entered the palace gardens, and what I saw there was incredible. A giant dragon's head was emerging. From beneath the palace, it looked like stone, but it was breathing. Its eyes glowed golden yellow. This wasn't a real dragon. It was an earth dragon, a giant creature formed where ley lines intersected, fed by the earth's energy. And there was someone on it, a member of the royal family, controlling the dragon. Who are you? Asked the dragon rider. William Blackwood, Celtic guard. Ah, you're the one doing the cleaning. Very amusing. But this is beyond your reach. The dragon began to draw in its fire breath. This wasn't ordinary fire. It was spiritual fire. It could burn my soul. The Celtic dagger reached maximum power. But would it be enough this time? As the dragon's fiery breath came straight at me, the Celtic dagger formed a protective shield around me. The spiritual fire collided with the dagger's energy, causing a huge explosion. The palace garden shook. Lights flickered on and off in the windows. The dragon rider lost his balance. Impossible, he shouted. The Celtic dagger can't be this powerful. But I was surprised, too. The dagger grew stronger with every battle. It was as if every spirit I released added energy to it. The earth dragon attacked again. But this time, it was a physical attack. It tried to grab me with its giant claws. I leapt onto the dragon's head. I was aiming for its eyes, because the source of the dragon's energy was in its eyes. When the Celtic dagger pierced the first eye, the dragon let out a terrible scream. Its left eye went out, and the dragon's left half began to turn to stone. As I attacked the second eye, the dragon rider tried to stop me, but it was too late. The dagger pierced the right eye too. The dragon petrified completely, and its rider fell to the ground. What do you think you're doing? He asked angrily. This dragon has protected the Empire's power for centuries. It won't protect anyone anymore, I said. The royal member tried to cast one last spell, but the Celtic dagger rendered him powerless too. When the power beneath Buckingham Palace vanished, the palace began to shake. It had been standing for centuries on dragon energy. I ran out of the palace. Sounds of collapse followed me. Morgana was waiting for me in the park. "William, you took a huge risk. Breaking the royal family's power was very dangerous." "But I succeeded. The dragon is gone." "Yes, but now you've drawn the full attention of the Dark Council. They'll do anything to stop you." She was right. The next day, there were strange reports in the news. Mysterious tremors at Buckingham Palace. Emergency evacuation of the royal family. Structural problems detected. Of course, they weren't saying the real reason. I found Thomas. "Mr. Hartwell, the situation is getting serious. Even the royal family isn't safe anymore." "William, you've gotten yourself into something big. But you can't turn back now." The compass showed the last two targets, Parliament and the City of London. "These two are the most dangerous," said Thomas. "There are demon energies in Parliament. In the City of London, Mammon spirits." "What are Mammon spirits?" The spirits of the god of money. They control the entire economy of the world." This was huge. But there was no point in stopping now. When I approached the Parliament building that night, there were protective spells around it. But the Celtic dagger pierced through them. When I descended into Parliament's basement, there was a terrible noise. Screams, moans. And what I saw there was terrifying. Giant demons were controlling the politicians, like puppet masters. "Ah, the Celtic warrior has arrived," said the demon leader. "You'll be a very entertaining toy. I didn't come to entertain you. I came to destroy you." The demons were very powerful, but I was experienced now. I grew stronger with every sacred area I cleansed. The battle lasted all night. The Parliament building shook, but in the end I destroyed the demons. The next morning, I saw the news report. Gas leak in Parliament building. They were hiding. The truth again. The final target remained. The City of London. This was the most dangerous one, because the spirits of Mammon controlled the entire world economy. When I entered the ancient temple at the heart of the City of London, I was blinded by the glare of gold. There was gold, jewels, money everywhere. And in the center, a giant statue of Mammon. Its eyes were real diamonds. "Welcome, William Blackwood," said Mammon's voice. "You will be a very expensive gift." This was the final battle. I was facing my most powerful enemy. If anyone listening to this story wonders why economic crises happen, perhaps the answer lies here. Fighting. Mammon was very difficult. He used the energy of money. He tried to buy everything, even my soul. But the Celtic dagger was stronger than him. The energy of money was weaker than spiritual power. Finally, I destroyed Mammon's statue. The paranormal power in the City of London ended. But at that moment, something terrible happened. All of London began to shake because I had cleansed all the sacred sites. The city's paranormal balance was disrupted. Morgana appeared one last time. "William, you made a big mistake. Now London is defenseless." "Why?" "I destroyed the evil forces. But you also destroyed the protective forces. Now greater dangers will come." Elements introduced in this section: Buckingham Palace dragon battle, the breaking of royal power, Parliament demon energies, City of London Mammon spirits, the disruption of London's paranormal balance. Morgana's words had a chilling effect on me. "Greater dangers? What do you mean?" William, the sacred lands didn't just hold back evil forces. They also kept far more terrifying things at bay. By cleansing all the sacred sites, you destroyed London's protection. At that moment, the sky began to darken. But this wasn't natural darkness. It was as if a giant shadow was descending upon the city. The stars began to fade one by one. Even the moon looked pale. "What's coming?" I asked in fear. Primordial entities, the first beings. They existed before the world was created, creatures left over from the age of chaos. The sacred sites in London kept them imprisoned in an interdimensional prison. My fear multiplied. So while trying to do a good thing, I had opened the door to an even greater disaster. The Thames River suddenly began to freeze. But this was no ordinary ice. It was black, crystalline ice. Strange shapes moved within it. It was as if creatures from other dimensions were swimming inside the ice. "The first entity has arrived," Morgana said in horror. "The Kraken of the Void Kraken, the creature that devours all realities." Giant tentacles began to emerge from the Thames. But these were no ordinary octopus tentacles. They were black, made of void tentacles that sucked and swallowed everything. Everything they touched disappeared. It didn't just disappear. It was as if it had never existed. London Bridge vanished instantly, as if it had never been built. Westminster Bridge shared the same fate. The tentacles were erasing everything from existence. "How can I stop this creature?" I shouted in panic. "I don't know, William. The protective powers of the sacred sites are gone. London is defenseless now." The Celtic dagger trembled in his hand, but this time it felt powerless. Compared to previous enemies, the Kraken was much larger, much more powerful. This creature was manipulating reality itself. One of the tentacles grabbed me. I felt a terrible coldness inside me. It was as if a part of my existence was being pulled away. Parts of my memory began to fade. But then something unexpected happened. Light began to emanate from all the sacred sites I had cleansed. The Tower of London, Westminster Abbey, St. Paul's Cathedral, Hyde Park, the spot where London Bridge should be, Buckingham Palace, Parliament, the City of London. Golden light rose from all of them. "What's happening?" I asked in astonishment. "The spirits you released are returning," Morgana said, equally astonished. "They are returning of their own accord to protect London." Thousands of spirits gathered in the skies above London. Celtic spirits came with green auras, Viking spirits with blue auras, Roman spirits with red auras, Saxon spirits with white auras, spirits from the city's entire history, guardians from all eras, and they were all ready to fight the Kraken. Let everyone who hears this story understand this. Sometimes it takes time to see the results of the good deeds you do. And sometimes, in your darkest moments, help comes from unexpected places. The spirits began to fight the Kraken. It was the most epic battle in history, a great conflict between past and future, light and darkness, life and death, existence and nothingness. Celtic spirits began to wrap themselves around the Kraken's tentacles and pull. Viking spirits attacked the creature with battle cries. Roman, legionary spirits surrounded the Kraken in disciplined formations. But the Kraken was very powerful. It was destroying the spirits one by one with its tentacles. Each spirit destroyed was erased along with a part of London. At that moment, I understood the true nature of the Celtic dagger. It was not just a weapon. It was a connection, It connected not only Celtic spirits, but all spirits of goodwill. I raised the dagger into the air. All spirits I have set free, share your power with me. Let's save London together. Thousands of spirits gathered around me in a spiral. Their powers merged with the Celtic dagger. The dagger began to glow like the sun. It was no longer just Celtic power. It was the combined power of all of London's history. The Kraken noticed me. It directed all its tentacles at me, but I was no longer alone. I felt thousands of spirits behind me. I flew toward the Kraken's center with the Celtic dagger. The dagger pierced what I thought was the creature's heart. The Kraken let out a terrible scream. The sound was so powerful that all the windows in London shattered. Big Ben stopped. The waters of the Thames began to flow backwards. Then it slowly began to dissipate. The waters of the Thames returned to normal. The bridges reappeared. The erased parts of London came back. The first entity was defeated, but I had no time to rejoice. A second entity was descending from the sky. This time, it was the Dragon of Chaos, the Chaos Dragon. It was even more dangerous than the first Kraken. This creature disregarded the rules of reality. "William," Morgana said anxiously, "this is a much greater danger. The Chaos Dragon destroys the concept of order. Where it comes, the laws of physics do not apply." When the Dragon of Chaos appeared in the skies above London, parts of the city began to deform. Buildings turned upside down, roads hung suspended in the sky, people walked in the air. Reality was breaking down. The dragon breathed not fire, but chaos. This breath randomly altered everything. A vehicle suddenly became a horse. A building turned into jelly. A park became a desert. "How can this be stopped?" I asked. "The only cure for chaos is order. But how will we create order?" Then I understood. Spirits represented not only power, but also order. Each era had its own unique order. "Spirits," I shouted, "you must give not only power, but also order. Bring the order of each era back to London." The Celtic spirits began to bring back the old Celtic order. The Viking spirits, the Viking order. The Roman spirits, the Roman order. The orders of different eras created harmony in London. The chaos. Dragon was stunned. It could no longer create chaos, because the multi-order system neutralized its effects. This time, the Celtic dagger radiated not only power, but also order energy. When I attacked the dragon, the creature began to dissolve. Because when chaos encountered order, it ceased to exist. The second entity was also defeated. London returned to normal. But the third and final entity was coming. The most powerful, the Devourer. The Devourer. This creature was an interdimensional hunter. It was a monster that devoured all worlds, all realities. The size of this creature was unimaginable. "This is impossible," Morgana said helplessly. "No one can destroy the Devourer. It devours all existence." But I was thinking differently now. Maybe I don't have to destroy it. "What do you mean, William?" "Maybe I can send it back. The sacred sites are a gateway, a sealing system. I can rebuild that system, but this time, differently." The Devourer began descending upon London. This creature was so large it cast a shadow over the entire city. Its mouth was like an open pit, sucking everything in. Buildings were torn from their foundations and began flying toward the Devourer's mouth. But I had now clarified my plan. I plunged the Celtic dagger into the ground. "All spirits, let us rebuild the sacred areas, but this time not to imprison evil forces, to strengthen and protect the good forces. The spirits understood. They all went to their old sacred sites. But this time, they radiated a different energy. A protective, empowering energy. At the Tower of London, the Celtic Guardians joined forces instead of sacrificing themselves. At Westminster, the Anglo-Saxon Guardians protected the people instead of taking sacrifices as they once did. At St. Paul's, the Roman Guardians brought peace instead of conquest. Every sacred site now radiated positive energy. And these energies formed a giant protective shield over London. The devourer was stunned. It could no longer devour London, because the city was enveloped in a powerful protective energy. Moreover, the positive energy emanating from London was pushing the devourer back. "Impossible," the devourer shouted in a terrifying voice. "I must devour this world. I am the creature that devours all realities." "No," I said firmly. "This world is now protected differently. You could only destroy, but we can create. And the power to create is greater than the power to destroy." The devourer made one last effort, using all its power to try to devour London. But the shield of positive energy repelled it. The Celtic dagger sent the devourer back into the interdimensional void with its last bit of energy. The creature vanished, screaming, "London was saved." But when the battle ended, I realized the city had truly changed. The sacred sites were active again, but now they worked for good, not evil. The Tower of London now taught ancient Celtic wisdom. Westminster Abbey offered true peace. St. Paul's Cathedral united people. Hyde Park connected people with nature. London Bridge connected different cultures. Buckingham Palace dispensed true justice. Parliament offered true democracy. The City of London produced happiness, not money. Morgana came to my side. "William, you did something incredible. You didn't just save London from destruction. You transformed it into a better place." "So I succeeded." "You didn't just succeed. You created a miracle, the Guardian of London. You became London's permanent protector." Thomas came over too, pride in his eyes. "William, you've made history. You are now officially London's paranormal protector. And this isn't just a title. It's a lifelong duty." The spirits came to me one by one. The Celtic spirit leader spoke. "William Blackwood, you freed us and then reunited us. You are now our leader, London's spiritual guardian." It was a huge responsibility, but I was ready now. In the days that followed, life slowly returned to normal. But London was now a completely different city. People were happier, more peaceful. The city was more vibrant, more energetic. The positive energy of the sacred sites had spread everywhere. Crime rates dropped. People began treating each other more kindly. Of course, the authorities knew nothing. Newspapers ran headlines like, "Mysterious atmospheric events have ended. London's happiness index breaks records. City air has been cleaned, and crime rates have dropped inexplicably." Scientists were trying to find an explanation. They came up with theories such as collective psychological effect, psychological reflection of reduced air pollution, and social media effect. But I knew the truth. And the spirits I had released knew it. And now, they were in constant communication with them. The Celtic dagger had changed. It was no longer just a weapon of war, but also a means of communication. With it, I could connect to all sacred sites. 3 months later, a new paranormal threat emerged. Dark wizards from outside the city were trying to steal London's positive energy. But I was ready now. I drove them away with the Celtic dagger, the guardians of the sacred. Sights also helped. 6 months later, another threat. Dimensional rifts. Creatures from other dimensions were trying to come through. But London's defense system blocked them too. A year later came the biggest test. The Dark Council returned. This time they were much more organized, much more powerful, and they wanted to seize London's new power. "William Blackwood," said the council leader, "you are playing a very dangerous game. This positive energy is upsetting the balance." "What balance?" "The global balance of power. Rich poor, strong weak, ruler ruled. Your London is everyone happy, everyone equal. It sets an example for other cities." So that was the real problem. London's success was exposing the injustices elsewhere. "This must stop," said the council leader. "Either you cooperate with us or what? Or we will destroy London, the entire city." This was a real declaration of war. But now I was powerful too, and I wasn't alone. "Spirits," I called out, "the time for the final battle has come." Spirits rose from all the sacred sites in London, but this time it wasn't just spirits. Living people joined too. The people of London, influenced by the positive energy, had discovered their own paranormal powers. It was a great battle. London united against the Dark Council. Past and present, dead and alive, fought together. The battle lasted 3 days. But in the end, we won. The Dark Council was scattered. London's positive energy was so strong that the dark forces could not approach. 2 years later, other cities wanted to adopt the London model. Paris, Rome, Amsterdam, New York. Representatives came from all of them. "How do you do it?" They asked. Of course, I couldn't tell them the truth, but I could teach them the method. Embrace your city's history. Make peace with the past. Unite different cultures. And most importantly, trust in the goodness of people. It seemed simple, but it was actually a very deep philosophy. 5 years later, London was the happiest city in the world. The crime rate was almost zero. There was no unemployment. Inequality was minimal. The environment was clean. People respected each other. And me. I was no longer just a guardian. I was London's permanent protector. But the best part was that I was no longer alone. A large part of London's population had discovered their own paranormal abilities. They had all become guardians on a small scale. Observe your city, your neighborhood. Maybe there are old powers, old guardians there too, and maybe you can awaken them. But remember, power brings responsibility, and true power comes from empowering others. If you start seeing strange things after hearing this story, don't be afraid. Maybe you've been chosen too. Maybe your city needs a guardian as well. This is the story of William Blackwood, the story of a man who went from being a guard at the Tower of London to becoming the city's permanent guardian. An adventure that began with red-eyed ravens and ended with transforming the entire city. And who knows, maybe one day you'll have a story like this too. This world is far more mysterious than it appears. And sometimes ordinary people have to do extraordinary things. Be ready, because the paranormal world can knock on your door at any moment. And then you'll have to decide, will you run away or will you fight? I chose to fight. And London became a much better place for all of us. Stay safe. And remember, sometimes the greatest danger can be the beginning of the greatest opportunity.